Well, here we are, the final stop on this monstrous adventure. Let's go. Welcome to WWH. My name is Andrew Dreamer, and Universal Monster Month is coming to a close. I've had so much fun with this series, and I hope you have as well. If this is your first time here, welcome. Subscribe to the channel and head over to Patreon to become a member of the WWH Universe. Also, check out some of our other content as well. Hit that like button and post a comment down below. We've actually talked about this movie before on the channel, just a few months ago actually, so that makes this one a rematch. But I wanted to talk about it again, and there's just no way that I was going to leave it out of this series. The Invisible Man was released in 1933 and was directed by James Whale, who also directed several other films for Universal, including Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. It stars Claude Rains and Gloria Stewart. As I mentioned the last time we reviewed this film, Gloria Stewart is best known for her role as Old Rose in Titanic, which, no matter how you look at it, is really cool. This movie to me is the Universal Monsters franchise at its best. I absolutely love this movie, and no matter how many times I see it, it never gets old. And now it is time to make our way down to the ring to get this show started. The film opens up on a very cold, snowy night where a stranger with his face covered in bandages and his eyes obscured by dark goggles appears in a small English village. He enters the Lion's Head Inn where he takes a room. This man is Dr. Jack Griffin, a chemist. He demands to be left alone so he can work. Weeks later, the innkeeper, Mr. Hall, is sent by his wife to kick out Jack from the room since he hasn't paid for it, and he's made a huge mess with all of his experiments. Angered, Jack attacks the proprietor and throws him down the stairs.
What are you doing? Help!
A policeman then arrives and confronts Jack, causing him to remove his bandages and show them all that he's invisible.
You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you. There's a souvenir for you.
Alright, I'm going to take a second here to talk about Mr. Hall's wife, Jenny. She's played by Una O'Connor, who was also in Bride of Frankenstein. But she's one of the most over-the-top characters I've ever seen in a film. Her facial expressions and her screams are basically her entire character, but she fits perfectly into Whale's sense of humor. So she's a little annoying, but it's nothing major. The policeman named Constable Jaffers is basically a Monty Python character and gives us several amazing quotes here.
Yeah, what's all this? Look, he's all eaten away. He's invisible. That's what's the matter with him. How can I ink up a blooming shirt?
Laughing maniacally, Jack takes off his clothes and scares the crowd of people off before escaping into the countryside. Jack discovered the secret of invisibility while conducting experiments involving a drug called monocaine. Flora Cranley, Griffin's fiancée and daughter of Griffin's boss, becomes worried about him being gone for so long. Cranley and his other assistant, Dr. Kemp, search Griffin's lab and find only a single note with chemicals written on it. Among them is monocaine, which Cranley knows is very dangerous because of a study where it drove a dog insane. Griffin hasn't heard of this, only knowing of its bleaching power. That same evening, Griffin turns up at Kemp's house, where he forces Kemp to become his visible partner in crime in his plan to dominate the world, starting with a few murders here and there.
We'll begin with a reign of terror. A few murders here and there. Murders of great men, murders of little men, just to show we make no distinction.
They go back to the inn so Griffin can retrieve his notebooks. Downstairs, a meeting is taking place led by an official who believes the entire thing is a hoax. After getting his research, Griffin attacks and kills the officer out of anger.
A hoax, is it? All a hoax! All a hoax!
Back home, Kemp calls Cranley asking for help and then calls the police. Flora persuades her father to let her come along. When Griffin sees her, he becomes more friendly, even calling her darling. Oh, that's nice.
You've been crying.
I want to help you. Why did you do this?
For you, Flora.
For me?
Yes, for you, my darling.
He learns that Kemp has betrayed him, and his first thought is to get Flora away from the danger. He then promises to murder Kemp the next night at 10 o'clock. Griffin escapes and goes on a ridiculous murder spree. This includes the derailment of a train killing 100 people and throwing 2 volunteers off a cliff. The police even go as far as to offer a reward to anybody who can think of a way to catch him. They also believe that Griffin will make good on his promise, so they use Kemp as bait and devise various traps to catch him. They disguise Kemp as a police officer and let him drive away in his car. Unbeknownst to everyone, Griffin is in the back seat. He tells Kemp that he's been watching him all day while committing his crimes. He ties Kemp to the seat and then sends the car absolutely freaking careening off a cliff where it explodes on impact, killing Kemp. Soon after, another snowstorm hits and forces Griffin to take shelter in a nearby barn where he falls asleep. A farmer then enters the barn and notices the movement in the hay, so he calls the police. When the police arrive, they set fire to the barn, forcing Griffin to come out and leave visible footprints in the snow. The police open fire, hitting Griffin, who falls to the ground. He is then taken to the hospital where he asks to see Flora. On his deathbed, he admits that he meddled in things that man must leave alone.
I meddled in things that man must leave alone.
As he dies, his body becomes visible again, and that is the end of Jack Griffin. Have I mentioned how much I love this movie? It's tragic, which is a common theme among the Universal monsters, but this one just feels a little different. It also has a lot of parallels with Frankenstein. Both deal with scientists who go mad for power. They both have a love interest and a friend who is in love with that love interest. It's very interesting to think about, and it's also something that I believe that James Whale purposefully put in these films. Just like always, we're going to talk about all of the positives and the negatives, but first, we have to take a quick break, so stick around and we'll be right back with more WWH action. If you're looking to save 20% off of your entire order from Redcon1.com, look no further. I have a perfect deal for you. If you'll go to their website, put some stuff in your cart, and when you're checking out, use code AndrewDreamer, and you will receive 20% off of your entire order. That's right, 20% off of your entire order. So go check out their website. They have t-shirts, they have pre-workouts, protein powders, snacks, anything that you could possibly want for your everyday life or your gym life. I promise you, you will find something. So go check them out and use code AndrewDreamer at checkout for 20% off your order. We're back and headed right back down to the ring. My first positive for the Invisible Man is, of course, Claude Rains. His performance here is amazing, as always, and it's not even because of his all-around acting. It's because of how powerful his voice is. And that was the most important aspect to casting this character. And they hit a home run. When it comes to the special effects, Jack Pierce and John P. Fulton both worked to make this film come alive. The use of the black velvet to create the invisible effects were so ahead of their time, and they played a huge role in paving the way for the future. I know the process of makeup was hard for Claude Rains because of some experiences he had during the war, and there were some very difficult shots to film. But everybody worked so hard to make everything come together, and I think it really comes across on the screen. And though this story differs pretty greatly from H.G. Wells' novel, it's so well written. You really feel for Jack Griffin, especially when he sees Flora, and he understands where he went wrong by the end of it. I could seriously watch this movie over and over, and I kind of have. I also love just how brutal Griffin can be. I mean, he kills over 100 people and even knocks over a baby in a stroller. Who does that? Well, Jack Griffin does. There is also a lot of humor in his actions. He's just so nonchalant about everything.
Here we go gathering nuts in May, nuts in May, nuts in May. Here we go gathering nuts in May on a cold and frosty morning. Whoops!
Let's switch sides now, though. I do think the character of Jenny gets a little annoying at times. I mean, all she does is scream, and it gets old pretty quickly. So and this is a dumb negative, but I wanted to see more of Constable Jaffers. I love that character, and I wanted to hear him speak more. That's honestly about all I've got. I mean, I'm not going to go just look for negatives for the heck of it. I think if you enjoy a movie that much, then why go through all that trouble? But if you think that I left something out, let me know down in the comments and we'll discuss it. The Invisible Man received several sequels that delved more into the comedy rather than the horror, and he even had a run-in with Abbott and Costello. There was also the film adaptation called Hollow Man starring Kevin Bacon and the 2020 remake directed by Lee Winnell, which I also enjoyed. But all in all, this is my favorite version of this story, and it's my favorite Universal Monster movie. It's also the perfect review to end Universal Monster Month with. So if you haven't seen this movie, I promise this review did not do the film justice, and you need to check it out for yourself. You won't regret it. With all of that being said, it is time to wrap up our show. So thank you for joining us here today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. Leave a like and a comment down below with your thoughts of this film. The next video will be a ranking video of all of the monsters that we covered this month. That will be coming very soon. But until then, my name is Andrew Dreamer, and this is Wrestling with Horror.